Hey friend, how you doing today? So today's Friday the 20th, June 20th. Um, what what did you ask me? What am I worried about for early retirement? Oh, that's a good question. I've thought about it. You know, I tend to come from a family of worry warts, and yeah, you know. So I'm not in retirement yet. I'm in a transition. I'm not retired yet, but I'm getting there. It's going to be within this year. I'm very sure of it. And if not, worst case scenario, I have to work until next June when my contract ends. Best case scenario, I will finish up by the end of the year or sooner. Yeah, there's some pros and cons to that, but I'm looking forward to ending this year. 2025 was my year to retire early. But I have to say, there are some worries and concerns that I do have. I wouldn't say I lose sleep about it, but they are things that cross my mind, and I write things down. I do journal a lot, and I do think it's something to look at. You know, a lot of videos that I watch of people are usually people who are already retired, and they're not retired yet. So I'm not retired yet, but I am preparing for it. And here I'm doing a little very risque maneuver in the pool. I don't want to drop my phone. I think it's an iPhone 13. I don't know if it's waterproof. But there are some things that I am concerned about. Again, I'm not losing sleep over them, but I do think about this, you know, and I think by recording this, I will be interested to see what I think in a year or two. I can look back on this to see if these were real worries. So I'm glad you asked. I'd like to know, well, before I forget about it, what are you worried about going into retirement? What types of things do you think about? And write them in the comments below. And I'd like to hear your comments on my worries. I think the first one is probably, unless you're retiring with millions, unless you have an infinite money machine, you're going to be worried about money. My biggest one is worried about money. It's the obvious one. I'll be retiring on a modest budget. I don't have $1 million. I have less than $1 million, and I am concerned about it. I have a plan, but you know, things can really go south, you know, especially when you're going to have to manage on a budget. And so I am worried about running out of money. But I look at my portfolio and, you know, thinking logically, simple math. Even if my portfolio doesn't grow at all, and I am able to cover I can cover my basic costs. The portfolio should last me 15 to 18 years. So that would take me to almost 70, 75. That's pretty good. You know, and we're talking bare minimum costs. I mean, no extras. So if the portfolio didn't grow at all, that would be, I think, the worst case scenario, or the market completely disappeared. We lost everything and we ended up in a World War III or World War IV, then that won't matter. Then I'll be looking to survive. The market won't matter. So I am worried about running out of money, and particularly if my wife outlives me, I want to make sure she has enough. So the second thing is similar. These next two are similar. They're related. So my wife's family is not poor or is not wealthy. They are okay for their village level. They have a small pharmacy and they're farmers. They're self-contained, but they don't have insurance. They don't have salaries. You know, they work. They're affluent for the village they're in, but I'm telling you, the village is like jungle Lao. So I am concerned. So if there is a need, their culture, the family chips in, and who pays the most? It's the people with the most. So if something happens to her family, medical bill, or some other financial pressure, I'm going to be expected to chip in, and probably a lot more than any of the others. And we don't know what that looks like. Her parents are in her 70s, and they're pretty healthy, but I mean, they do have problems. I've already helped them with, I helped her sister with an emergency operation for her, she broke her shoulder, and then I helped her father who hurt his shoulder, and it just makes me uneasy as to what could come to over the next couple years, especially if I don't have an income. It's going to have to come from my reserves or my investments. So then just keeping, and her sister has a baby. Her sister has a baby, no husband. She has a boyfriend who pays for the baby because it is his. Who knows if that ever dries up? Who knows if he ever bolts, doesn't take his responsibility. But I'm like, that they're minimum. I mean, they're wage workers. How is he going to afford to put her into school? And kids get sick. So who's going to pay for that? And she lives with me. So her sister lives with me with this baby, and I've reminded my wife many times, it's not my baby. We can help, but I'm not taking care of it. Not my responsibility. But I know that it's not going to jive when the time really comes up. So yes, that concerns me. I know I might sound like a beast, but it's a fact. It's not my baby. It's a reason I never had kids of my own. I don't want to take care of kids. I'm happy to take care of my wife. I'm happy to help some things with her family, but I'm not responsible for them. But I don't think that will go very well if I want to have a long-term relationship with them. So I have to be prepared for maybe some surprise at some point. Just hopefully it's not too much to break the bank. So the second thing is, cost of living is more than I expected. I am creating a buffer. I have a baseline of $2,000 a month to cover basics, and that includes, a healthy food budget and pets. The pet food is almost as much as the people food. Right now I have a lot of pets, and we just have to reduce them if necessary. It's been mostly because of medical expenses for the older ones. Well, the one passed already a year and a half ago, so and the other one is doing pretty well at the age of 16. But just running out of money, of course, or my cost of living is going to be more. I am getting health insurance, inpatient. I will be paying for that. That will be, I think it will be about $200 or $300 a month for the two of us, depending on which plan I get. So I think it still might be minimal, manageable. This one is number 4 is a bit morbid. And I hate to even write it down, but I mean, so I'm planning my retirement life around to be living in Laos with my wife. She's Lao, and that's where she's from. And I'm leaving the U.S. I'm not excommunicating myself from the U.S., but I am moving to Laos. And I've been nomadic for 25 years, and for 30 years actually. I've been living overseas for 30 years, living a nomadic life, and I expected my retirement to look like that because I never expected to really settle. But when I met Da, everything changed, of course, and so losing Da would not only, I can't imagine the pain of losing her. I lost the most important woman in my life, my mother, and it was awful. It still is. I mean, it's a little over a year and a half ago, and the pain I feel. If I lost Da for some reason, not only that emotional pain, but practically, what would that look like? I would not stay in Laos. Laos would not be a place I would want to retire to, but I'm only doing it because of her. It's easier for me to live there than her to live outside of Asia. And so I probably would not stay in Laos. Everything would remind me of her. And but I'm setting my whole life up to live there with her. But I am hopefully we'll live long together. We've been together for 12 years in July, and happier than ever. I couldn't have asked for a better partner in life, and I just thank God for her every day. But it's still losing her. The thought of losing her is unimaginable. I'd be inconsolable. So, number 5, even though I have personal projects, I feel like I still have a lot of skills and energy to offer, to be working with an organization or be working with a group to help other people in some way. Or I just feel like my career is abruptly ending. I'm very happy to not be having to deal with this, but I'm just thinking, all the skills that I have learned, and even just recently, I feel like I still have a lot of energy. I have a good mind. I have a lot to offer, and just the thought of that ending. What am I going to do with all that information in my head? I assume God's going to have another plan for me at some point. I can get involved with a church. I can get involved with another charity so I'm hoping there's something there, and I'm hoping that I don't just start to my mind becomes a vegetable because I'm not using these skills. I'm sad that I'd be leaving this kind of meaningful work so soon. But personally, I just can't take it anymore, and it just seems like, this is what's happening. God might have another job for me, but I'm not counting on it. So anyway, personal projects, I hope they're fulfilling enough for me to spend my time. Number 6, wasting time. Sometimes I waste time now. I don't know what's going to happen when I have more time. Right now I can see my evenings. I'm pretty productive and self-disciplined, but I still waste time. I still probably watch too much of YouTube, or, doom scrolling on YouTube. YouTube's my vice. But I am watching constructive things like 95% of the time. Some of it's stupid, but that's how they get you with the algorithm. But I look at how much time I'm wasting now with the little free time I have. What am I going to do when I have got every day is free? So I'm worried about it, that I don't want to exacerbate the amount of time I waste. But in some ways, I'm not worried about it because I am pretty self-disciplined. And then 7 is having bad neighbors. I think it's one of the worst things you could end up having in where you're living. It'd be like having a structural problem in your house, but right next door. I just see these nightmare news, the news on Thai news, always highlighting these disputes with the neighbors and ending up in gunfights over the fence, and just people really hurting each other. And I think that would my one of my best friends, they lived in a nice neighborhood many years ago in the US. They lived in a nice neighborhood, nice house, nice property. He said in the end they had to move because a neighbor was completely difficult, absolutely awful nightmare, a neighbor from hell. And I just see this, and that's in a country where you have some support in a way. You have legal and police if things get too bad. But here, this is the wild, wild west in some ways, and people are living on top of each other. We live in a very small community, and so far so good. But that's probably the number one thing you want to look out for when you're moving somewhere. Watch out and make sure you're getting some good neighbors if you can. And so that's it. That's what I'm not worried about, or that's what I am worried about. 2 things I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about being bored. I love being alone, and I have projects that I think will last me a long time. So right now I'm learning Lao language. I'm expecting that to consume most of my time within the next year until I get to a good speaking level. I'm working on my book. I have other projects. I want to work on another book. So I'm not worried about being bored. I want to go to the gym. I want to spend a lot of time on my health. And so I'm just going to block out times during the day for that. And the other thing I'm not worried about is being taken care of in old age. The Lao culture is, they're my lifeline. Her family will be my lifeline. And I talked to her about this. You talk about, I've seen videos on long-term insurance care. My dad needed it. Fortunately, he got it with Medicaid. He needed it because my mom was too old to take care of him. She couldn't even move him. She could barely walk herself, let alone take care of her. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but there's no way she could take care of him 24/7. So he needed 24/7 care. Because he was bedridden completely for almost 3 years. And so, people pay insurance for that, and I'm not. And so I'm not worried about that, needing that, because her family, her niece, I asked her this, what's going to happen if I end up like my dad, which I don't think I will, because I think there is some choice in that. He kind of gave up. Who knows how I'll feel in 10, 15 years, but I don't think I'll feel like that. But she said, her niece, her nephew will be there to take care of. And I said, are you sure? They're going to have their own families and stuff. She said, yeah, I'm sure. And I'm 95% sure that will be the case. We will have people to take care of us if we get to a point where we are unable to take care of ourselves. My wife is as light as a feather. She weighs 100 pounds wet. So it would be more me that would be the problem. So those are things I don't worry about. So number 8 actually is I worry about not seeing my siblings as often as I probably will want to. So it's likely that they will never ever come to see me. The cost, and no one has ever come to see me anyway. My 2 sisters are talking about coming to see me maybe sometime next year. They might not be making it now for the wedding, which is fine. I'd much rather them come to visit me in Laos. But so if anybody's going to visit, it's going to be me. And hopefully my wife, if we can get her a U.S. visa. But with my parents gone, I used to go home every year, every 2 years. And now I might not be back to the States for several years at a time. And but at least I'll be able to stay in touch with them as much as possible in communications. So those are things I'm worrying about. And this is, 6 months before I actually enter into retirement or I stop working for a living. So tell me about yourself. What do you think about these? Am I people who are in retirement? Give me your comments, your feedback on some of these concerns I have, and if they came true for you or not. Really appreciate the hearing from you. All right, everybody, take care. God bless. Take care of yourself, and until the next one. Oh, I forgot. This is Troy's at Winding Down Chronicles of an expat going into early retirement on a modest budget in Southeast Asia. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And tell your friends about to come and join the conversation. Until the next one, take it slow. God bless.